more in-store activity to most businesses. It will give them another opportunity to upsell their customers and create more sales. Ghost guns are showing up at crime scenes and being recovered by law enforcement at alarming rates. At a nearly 90% increase since 2017, and that is over twice the increase that we have seen nationally. The number recovered has tripled.
All right, aloha, everyone. Today we are covering Colorado Senate Bill 26-043. This is, and let me bring it up for you just a second. It is the records keeping and regulated of sale of firearm barrel here in Colorado. This is the committee where people can testify against it and give their point of view and everything. I'm going to be testifying today against this bill. So I'll be in and out of this live stream. Big Haas is also going to be helping me cover it on the times where I'm not here, so we can explain about what's going on with this whole entire ordeal. Okay. Go ahead and unmute it, but turn it down for just a little bit.
All right. I hope we all can agree that gun-related deaths in Colorado are too high. I believe we all want to see those lives because those lives are real people.
Tom Sullivan
sons and daughters of Colorado,
representative in Colorado.
We want those deaths to stop.
And
I ask today that you vote yes on Senate Bill 26-043, and we work together on this crisis that impacts us all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Members, are there questions for the sponsor? Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 3 of the bill, there's on line 7 and 18 talks about 30 days in county jail. Who will pay that? Because right now, just as this states, it looks like it's going to be an unfunded mandate.
Oh, love that question.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, for the question. Well, I think when there's a law being broken, the community has to pay for it. We all pay for that in our daily lives. That's why we have a set of laws. I mean, if someone gets caught for a DUI and they take them in and they put them in the drunk tank for the night, we have to pay for that.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. We will move to the witness phase. Some things for the witnesses before we get started. It's very important that we do not impugn the motives of members of this body or even of the guests coming to testify today. We want to be respectful and ensure that everyone gets heard and that we see through the process around this legislation. If there are disruptions in the room, you will be asked to leave politely, but you will be asked to leave. We won't allow clapping or exclamations on either side. With that, every witness will have 2 minutes to testify, and we will begin with our first panel of supporters, which will be Steve Lindley, Mark Harris, Stephanie Greenberg, and Kara Allison. And I can repeat any of those names if folks are online.
Okay, people, this is for people testifying for it.
Do we have Stephanie Greenberg or Kara Allison?
So.
Okay, can we go to Rhiannon Danborn and Angeli Pasrich?
Hey, Kenan. All right. Hey, Big Hoss, can you mute that for a minute?
I just heard that, Angeli.
And I'm going to share my stage so I can give a view overview real quick. Okay, this is Senate Bill 26-043. And it's pretty much saying it is unlawful for anybody to purchase, sell, or transfer a firearm barrel that is not from a licensed FFL dealer. And what the guys asked about with the jail, what they're saying is it's an unclassified misdemeanor punishable upon conviction thereof, a fine not more than $500 and 30 days imprisonment in county jail, except that a second or a subsequent offense is a class 2 misdemeanor. My biggest concern is what's unclassified right there. So that's the biggest ordeal right there. And it repeats it twice. So we have to go to an FFL dealer to sell, to transfer, to buy a firearm barrel. So
Right, because we have to put a stop to all these random shootings with gun barrels. You know, just people driving around with gun barrels in their cars and picking them up and doing shootings and stuff like that. We need to stop that. Everyone knows gun barrels are the problems here.
However, there's a specific remaining problem.
okay, go ahead and unmute on your end so the people can hear.
Creating those guns through 3D printing in his preparation for that event. Currently, across the country, the federal government is pulling back from enforcing gun violence prevention laws. But here in Colorado, we have a different tradition and history. Just 2 years ago, we passed an excellent law to ban ghost guns, Senate Bill 279. It includes both 3D printing of ghost guns and the utilization of kits. It's a great bill. However, there's a specific remaining problem for the folks intending on creating ghost guns through 3D printing. They want to go out and have purchase a firearm barrel either online or from some non-federally licensed firearm dealer. That circumvents many of our gun violence prevention laws. This bill specifically addresses that loophole, and it requires an in-person purchase. It ensures that our background system is retained, and also provides a minimally burdensome check on the proliferation of ghost guns.
Thank you so much. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself, state your name for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Senators. My name is Michael Linderman. I lead the Brady United Colorado chapter, and I'm a 25-year resident of the state. I'm here to express my strong support for Senate Bill 43, a common sense measure that helps modernize Colorado's firearm safety laws in light of evolving technology and the criminal use of untraceable weapons. Across the U.S., law enforcement is confronting a rapid and concerning rise in untraceable firearms known as ghost guns. These privately built guns made out of component parts can easily be acquired and assembled by those prohibited from purchasing the firearm legally. According to the ATF, a number of ghost guns recovered by police from crime scenes from 2017 to 2023 exceeded 92,000, a 1,500% increase. These weapons have been linked to homicides and other violent crimes nationwide and pose significant challenges for investigation and public safety. While this body took necessary steps to ban ghost guns in the state in 2023, those intent on accessing firearms illegally have turned to building firearms out of 3D printed components to skirt the current laws. One major component of a firearm that remains difficult to reproduce is the 3D printed barrel. Senate Bill 43 would require firearm barrels to be sold or transferred in person by a federally licensed dealer with basic age, eligibility checks, and a modest record of sale. This directly addressed the loophole exploited by those building 3D printed firearms by requiring an in-person interaction with a federally licensed firearm dealer. Importantly, this bill does not restrict lawful firearm ownership. By aligning regulation with contemporary threats, Senate Bill 43 enhances community safety while respecting lawful possession. I urge your support on Senate Bill 43. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go online to Steve Lindley.
Morning, Chair and committee members. My name is Steve Lindley, and I am a 28-year law enforcement veteran and former chief of the California Department of Justice Bureau of Firearms. I'm here on behalf of Brady United and in support of Senate Bill 43. Over the past decade, Colorado, along with the rest of our nation, has seen an epidemic from the firearm industry flooding our communities.
Are you on like live?
Products that can be built without background checks, serial numbers,
Click on the live.
safety requirements. Just to consumer-based 3D, just
Yeah, I'm live.
consumer-based
Okay.
3D manufacturing of ghost guns. Over the past several years, 3D printers have become more affordable and accessible to consumers.
Okay.
The materials used in these
He's talking about 3D printers.
plastic,
Big Hoss,
and
you're
nylon,
the 3D
powder,
printing guy
and even lightweight.
for this
Yeah.
channel.
3D printing
Can you-
is becoming
Is he
easier.
talking correctly about 3D printing a firearm barrel?
Seeking to build and manufacture firearms without going through
Um,
license or mandated
I
background checks,
mean,
or using 3D printers to fabricate frames,
sort of,
receivers,
but
and many other
it's still
components of a firearm.
impossible
However,
to.
one major component of the firearm, its barrel, is challenging to manufacture. Although it was
Really
technically possible to 3D print a firearm
Print
barrel,
a
the functionality and
printed
durability
barrel.
of a 3D printed barrel are extremely
It's
limited,
really not
making it
feasible
dangerous
because it
for the
cannot
user.
hold the
The
pressure
3D printer firearms barrels
of
pose unique
a
challenges
round.
due to the extreme pressures generated by firing the cartridge. This bill simply requires that Colorado, someone who is seeking to purchase or transfer a firearm barrel must conduct the transaction in person through a licensed firearm dealer. The simple action protects the community and law enforcement from illegal firearms and the criminals seeking to use them. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I ask for your aye vote.
I don't get
Thank you
the
so much.
big thing
And,
about the
next,
barrel.
we will go online to Rhiannon. If you could introduce yourself and who you represent, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Rhiannon Danborn, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Colorado chapter of Team Enough. I'm a student at the University of Colorado Boulder, currently studying outside my microeconomics lecture in order to speak to you guys today, and have lived in Colorado for my entire life. I'm a member of the National Executive Council of Team Enough, the youth-led initiative of the Brady campaign, and co-lead the Team Enough subchapter at my university.
Does it
Thank you
create
for the opportunity to speak before you today in support of SB 43. In 2023, as a 16-year-old
what do
in
you
high
call it?
school, I lobbied for and helped pass Colorado's
Distorted
first
sound.
An
first
echo?
bill regulating the
Yeah.
possession,
So
sale,
give me 1
this
second. Let's
loophole.
see.
and the thought of the ensuing consequences is
Let
enough
me-
by itself to justify this bill. But it isn't just a passing
Okay,
thought,
go ahead and
it's a
talk and see
reality
if
in
it
our
creates an
state.
echo.
In 2023, it was
Hello?
reported the perpetrator of the Club Q shooting
hear an
in
echo?
Colorado Springs
I
had a
don't hear an
history of
echo.
building ghost guns with 3D printed
Okay.
parts. And the
So
perpetrator
this is
in the
the
Denver
Zoom
East High School shooting
meeting I'm in.
had
I'm
3D
waiting
printed ghost guns
to
in
be
their
called
possession.
in.
Regulating firearm barrels will create a practical and
So as you
non-burdensome
see-
barrier to the illegal manufacturing of 3D printed firearms and keep firearms out of the hands of those in our state who should not have them. For these reasons, on behalf of Team Enough, I respectfully urge the committee to support SB 43.
Thank you so much, Ms. Danborn, and Sco.
And all these people are
sorry
talking
to
about
your microeconomics professor. Member,
3D
members,
printing.
are there
This
questions
is
for this
nothing to
panel?
do with 3D printing.
Yeah.
I mean,
None.
yes,
Well,
they're
so
trying
much
to
for
say
being
you can
here.
3D print a firearm, but the barrel is needed.
Next, we will go to
Yes, that is technically
of
true,
opposition.
but
We'll
there
call
are ways to get
Collins,
around
who will be
having a
online,
barrel in
and
a
Commissioner Corey Appleton, I believe, will also be online. And then we will also call Keith Emerson and Mario Acevedo.
I'm gonna and like
Yeah,
I mean-
I'm hearing an echo from you. Let's just go ahead and
Okay, so then we
go
will
back
should
to
I
also-
your
mute myself
screen.
and then you play your audio, let your audio here, or
Yours are going to be a little bit delayed than mine is.
also be online. And then we will also call Keith Emerson and Mario
but
Acevedo.
yes, there are ways to get around it if you simply look at the history, like for example, the Ludi gun.
Okay, so then we will also call up Huey Longessen,
For
Franco Santa
the
Maria,
viewers out there, a
and
Ludi
Justin
gun was a concept firearm made in the UK by a Mr. Ludi, who used strictly legally bought hardware store parts to make a
Okay, and just to
fully
add one more,
working
is
submachine
John
gun.
Lamb here?
And he did as a
Ezra Vargas?
concept that their laws are.
Why don't we start with these three? We'll give folks a few more minutes.
Because
If you could start over here, we'll have you introduce yourself, state who you represent, and you'll have 2 minutes.
But that's only a figure of
Thank you, Madam Chair.
headaches I speak about.
My name is Huey Loggeson. I'm the Executive Director for the Colorado State Shooting Association. We strongly oppose Senate Bill 26-043. A barrel is not a gun and cannot be made into a gun unless paired with a lower receiver. Lower receivers are already subject to transactional
Teddy
requirements
Collins, I know
this bill would impose on barrels.
pretty
The
well.
combination of this bill's redundant nature and the utter benignity of a metal tube makes this proposal useless beyond its affinity for giving businesses and gun owners headaches. But that's only a figure of speech. These headaches I speak of are, in reality, unconstitutional burdens on the right of lawful Coloradans to exercise their Second Amendment rights. You all took an oath to uphold the United States Constitution. If that matters to you, you'll reject this legislation. Now, I, like pretty much everyone else here today, I'm getting pretty tired of having to show up here week after week, year after year, to tell you all what should be obvious, only to be consistently ignored in favor of an ideological agenda that believes gun owners are second-class citizens. Evidenced just the other week by this very committee prohibiting Coloradans here with concerns about legislation from wearing American flag pins, but allowing the Moms Demand Action crowd to wear their pins. We will not be intimidated. We will not be silenced. We will keep showing up and opposing you at every turn, here on the campaign trail and in the courts, where your agenda will be ultimately dismantled piece by piece. It's never too late to do the right thing. Kill this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicely said.
Introduce yourself,
Nicely
state who you
said.
represent.
Very
You'll have 2
nicely
minutes.
said.
Nope.
Thank you. My name's Keith Emerson. I'm a resident of Denver, and I'm speaking for myself. Please postpone this bill indefinitely. This bill is copied from California SB 704, passed with the goal of preventing barrels being used in ghost guns. First, ghost guns are already legal in Colorado, as has been pointed out. But even before the Colorado bill requiring every firearm to have a serial number, only roughly 2% of the firearms seized in Denver, from a Denver Post article in 2021, were considered ghost guns. So that's 1,907 guns seized, 38 of which were ghost guns. Double that. People talk about doubling, tripling. That's still a tiny fraction of the firearms used in crimes.
Very much so.
And having this restriction on barrels will not make that any different. As far as criminals go, according to the bill's own fiscal note, there aren't going to be many people actually caught violating the provisions of this bill. In the last 3 years, only one person has been convicted of unlawful transfer of a firearm, and only 13 have been convicted of unlawful purchase of completed firearms. As a discrete piece of a firearm, barrel transfer cases will likely be even smaller than these numbers. All this bill does is put in place another tripwire for the FFLs and lawful gun owners and costs lawful gun owners much more money. This bill could add $150 to over $200 to the cost of buying a part that would be used for improving accuracy in a competition pistol or something similar, or me looking for a new barrel for my 108-year-old rifle. Everyone will be affected except the criminal builders who can just drive 2 hours north and buy a barrel.
Very good point.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If you could introduce yourself, state who you're with, you'll have 2 minutes.
All right, Madam Chair, my name is Franco Santamaria. I am here representing the Denver chapter of Pink Pistols. I'm also here as a proud member of the Hispanic and queer community. I am here on behalf of the Pink Pistols chapter leadership. We're a group of volunteers who aid in teaching safety and basic handling of firearms for everyone, with a special focus on members of the LGBT community. We have seen a drastic uptick of interest in this community, as well as other minority community members in the recent months. I believe this is a good thing, as more people of all walks of life are taking not only their constitutional right to self-defense seriously, but also their responsibility to do so safely seriously. To do this work, I have paid out of my own pocket and spent a huge amount of my own time becoming a certified firearms instructor. I do not charge for instruction. I make no money whatsoever on this volunteer activity. I do this because I care deeply about the LGBT and minority community. To run my classes and keep my own instructing skills up, as well as participate in shooting sports, I and other instructors in this community wear out the barrels on our guns regularly. I cannot stress enough how damaging the passage of this bill would be to myself and members of my community. The attitudes of a huge amount of your constituents has changed. Requiring payment of FFL fees and limiting access to replacement barrels for uncommon firearms would be viewed as a betrayal by a large part of your own voting base. It's difficult to overstate how large of a negative impact of this would be in the ability of instructors to operate, for shooters to participate in shooting sports, for hunters to hunt, and for anyone to lawfully acquire or repair a firearm. To the Democratic members of this committee, I believe we are on the same side on many issues. I want to believe that you are on my side as well. That is why I urge a no vote.
Thank you so much. Members, are there questions for this panel? Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any of the panelists could answer this question for me. So firearm barrels typically aren't serialized. How would law enforcement even connect transaction records to criminal activity in practice?
Mr. Lageson, right? Please correct me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Lageson, thank you, Madam Chair. That is correct. Firearm barrels are not serialized, and that's a great question, Senator. Thank you.
Senators.
He could have touched on more on that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So
That was very a gloss over.
by that logic, how do you think law enforcement is even going to be able to track that barrel to a certain person that's committed a crime?
Mr. Lageson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator. I don't believe they will be able to if the barrels are unserialized as they are. I don't see any way they possibly could enforce this legislation.
Senator Zamora Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for anyone. So I'm trying to imagine what this looks like if your child is needing a barrel replacement. What does this look like? What does it look like now versus once this law is in place? What are the unintended consequences and costs?
Was that for a particular? Yes. Would anyone like to take that? Mr. Santamaria?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned in my talk, one of the problems is that a lot of the manufacturers of barrels are not FFLs themselves, and they are out of state, and they're small specialty manufacturers. So in the case of a less common firearm, a lot of the times a replacement barrel, the only option is to go with a small specialty manufacturer. Now, these manufacturers are not FFLs themselves, so they don't have a system in place to ship only to other FFLs, just like you would with a manufacturer of a receiver. So the costs for implementing such a system would be very large. So I think the vast majority of these small manufacturers will take the option of simply not selling to Colorado residents. So in the case of a less common firearm with a specialty barrel, it could become impossible to replace that barrel.
Mr. Emerson?
Thank you. I did look at the Brownells website, and for a certain Glock model of pistol, barrels cost from $60 up to over $200, with most being $150 or more. To put that in perspective, I also checked with a local gun club, and for meeting these bill's requirements and doing trouble, background check, etc., can run from $150 to over $200 for the FFL's time and effort in this process.
Okay, what they're talking about with that right there is this is a standard like
Thank
barrel
you,
for a PSA dagger.
If you would just bear with me.
If they're drilling holes into it, that's called fluting.
I have witnessed
And
in other
that's
markets
what
let's
they're
say
talking
in
about. It can
forestry,
range up to that much depending on the
when the
gunsmith's
government
time.
starts
Right.
making it mandatory that you go through one of their certified people. The cost in this example that I'm giving you in forestry, if someone has forested land and they want to log it, they have to get a permit. Typically, it was like $3,200. And then the state, this is specifically in California, required that it be a federal forester. The cost to get that permit jumped from, what did I say, $3,200 to over $30,000, making it such that people would either exit the market because they wouldn't go through because it became too costly, or obviously these costs would be borne down to the consumer. Do you see something similar happening when we're talking about FFL?
What the?
Well, I
That's
mean,
a lot of money.
the tripwires and raising the cost is the point of this whole bill, obviously. FFLs are very honest people, and they will be complying with this. And like I said, normally for a firearms transfer, it costs at my local gun range $150 to a little over $200.
All right, thank you so much, sir. That is expires our time for this panel. Next, we will call up, see if we have some of our proponents joined. Can we see if Angeli Pastrich is online? Okay. Stephanie Greenberg? Okay. Kara Allison? And Benjamin Elwood?
Okay, people are watching. What they're doing is putting the pros who's with the bill testifying first, and then they're taking people who are against the bill
would like to testify in
and
support of the
putting them up
legislation?
second.
Got
So
it.
it's going back and
Angeli,
forth,
we
back
will
and
turn
forth,
it
and you're going
over
to see this process.
to start us
But
off. If you could introduce
in
yourself,
my
be
honest
represented, you'll have
opinion,
2 minutes.
these people who are for the bill don't
morning.
really know
My
what
name
they're
is Angie
talking about
Pastrich, and
because
I'm
they don't
speaking
know
today on
firearms
behalf
very
of the
well.
Denver chapter as the director for Team Enough Denver, a youth-led gun violence prevention organization. I have lived in Colorado my whole life, and I'm a freshman at CU Boulder, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak before this committee in support of SB 43. I remember when my middle school first got 3D printers and students in the computer science could code
Okay,
projects.
people,
and the
in
robotics
this
team
bill,
had
there's
access
nothing
to
saying
something
about
that could
3D
level up their
printing.
robots for competition.
Even Big Hoss
I
has seen
remember
the
when my
bill,
family got a 3D printer and we would see
read it,
solutions for
nothing
everyday
about 3D
problems,
printing. So
making phone stands
everything about
and little
3D
desk
printing is
decorations.
what are they really talking
As I
about?
grew up, I
Yeah.
realized that 3D
It
printers
is
also have another use. One
just
much more black market
absolutely
coded,
irrelevant.
the creation of ghost guns, something that is
Yeah,
entirely
even ghost
possible
guns are
and
not
the only aspect
part of
of
the
the
bill.
firearm that cannot be
It just
easily
says
or directly
barrels.
printed.
Yeah.
The barrel is unregulated. This loophole allows individuals who are not allowed to own or manufacture firearms to come into ownership of illegal guns. Easily acquiring an essential component of a firearm and attaching it to a 3D printed gun means that a person just created a weapon with no identification, no way to track the sale or use of this weapon, and no easy way to prevent the
Big
distribution
Hoss,
of the
how
firearm.
easy is it to put
Regulated
a
industrial
barrel like
manufactured
this
barrels will create
on a
practical
3D
barrier
printed
to
gun?
this illegal manufacturing of 3D printed
First off, not
firearms.
only do you have to
Ensuring
buy
that
the
barrel
barrel,
sales must occur in person
but
through a
you
licensed gun
have
dealer is not a
to
big ask.
make a
Why would we want those who are
extremely
not
strong
supposed to have
anchor
firearms
point
to have
for it
easy
to
access?
attach
Is it not
to,
the purpose of both our government and gun
encasing
owners to
it
ensure that safety is the
inside
number one
of
priority? I hope to see a safer Colorado where the
a
next generation
print,
of students does not worry for
and
their safety in
then
class. Passing SB 26043 allows you
usually
all to take
pinning it
action in
through
making
in
that
some way
future a
or
reality
another.
by mandating
It
that the purchase of
is
firearm barrels must be
highly,
conducted in person
it is
through a licensed dealer.
possible,
Thank you for your time
but
and consideration
again,
of my
it costs a
testimony.
lot of money, to
Thank
get
you
the
so
barrel
much,
in the
Mr.
first place.
Pastrich, and once again,
And then
SCOBUFs.
you have
We will go to Dr. Greenberg next. Could we also see if
the
Michael White is
logistics
online?
of knowing what to do.
No. Okay, great. Dr. Greenberg, if you could introduce yourself, who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank
There
you
are
very much,
people who
and
do
good
it all
morning
the
to
time
everyone. My name is
because they
Stephanie
want
Greenberg. I'm a volunteer
freedom of
with Colorado
expression.
Faith Communities United to End Gun
They're
Violence, and
willing
we are in
to
strong support of
pay
SB
the money to
043.
make these
And
works
I'd
of
just like
art
to
that
start off
happen to
by
be guns.
reiterating the point that Senator Sullivan made in his remarks, because it's a really
But
important one.
it's not
The
something that
prevalence of ghost guns
just
used in
anyone
crimes
can
has
do.
increased dramatically in Colorado and nationwide.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are printers that can print metal, but they're extremely expensive and industrialized. Am I correct?
The previous 5 years combined,
You are
more
correct.
than
They
twice
are
the
used
national
strictly
increase in
in
the same
industrial
time period.
settings.
Colorado
You
did pass a
can't
law
get them
regulating
in
ghost guns
the
in 2023 that
commercial
banned the possession and sale
market,
of
but you're
unserialized
talking
guns
about
and the manufacture
something
of
on the course
specific
of over
unserialized gun parts like frames and receivers.
$3,000 to
However, the use of
$4,000
3D printers instead
in
of
just
kits
the
has
printer.
dramatically increased, once again
Yeah.
Then you need
circumventing
the
most state and
special
federal firearm
metal
regulations
that
and
goes in it.
requiring new regulations to respond to this new dangerous trend.
So, like the
For
cheap
most parts,
3D printers
any
they're
completely
talking about would
functional
not
firearm can now be produced
work with
with
a
a 3D printer, with
barrel
one notable
like the
exception,
one
the firearm
Hawaiian showed
barrel.
us,
As a
or if
result,
it
those
did,
who
it
want
would
to
be
assemble
extremely
ghost gun
difficult
are
and
purchasing
specialized.
manufactured barrels and attaching them
Yes,
to
you would
3D
have to have
printed guns.
specialized knowledge,
These
but
barrels are
as someone
entirely
as
unregulated and can be
myself
purchased
who knows
online or in stores without any
a
restriction,
lot about
including a
both
background check.
gun
Regulating
and
these
printing
manufactured barrels will create a
to
barrier
do
to
it,
the illegal
and
production of 3D printed firearms by requiring that anyone who
it
seeks to
is
purchase a barrel
going to
must do
take a
so in
lot of
person
time,
through a federally
effort,
licensed firearm dealers
and
and undergo a
such
background
to
check.
actually
I'd also like to note that the
Thank,
bill has
thank you
also
so
pull this
much.
off.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you to the panel.
Mhm. Questions for these witnesses? Seeing none, thank you all so much for being here. We will next call up in opposition Teddy Collins, Commissioner Corey Applegate, yes, and then in person, Phil McDonald,
Teddy Collins.
Michael Quinlan, please. And we will also, if in a neutral position, if Allison Spink is here. And we'll also call up Nephi Cole. Okay, so we will start in person. I believe you are here in a neutral position. Okay, if you could state your name for the record, who you represent, and you will have 2 minutes. If you could please turn on your mic, it'll be on the stem there. Nope, on the, on the.
Hello. Okay. All right. My name is Allison Spink. I am the treasurer of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. I am not here representing the party or its members. I am here representing sovereign Coloradans. While this bill is an obvious infringement on the First and Second Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, I am neutral on this law because I believe that good things can come from bad things. I am waiting for my brothers and sisters to wake up and take ownership of their own lives back from the parasite class. And I look forward to this legislative body pushing them to this. I'm also neutral because it does not impact me. I will not obey illegal laws. You'll have to kill me first. And I just have this little most motivational speech to share that perhaps some of you may have heard. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator, not you, with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, which you have, it is their right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be charged for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable. I will not suffer you. Then to the right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations,
Thank you so much.
variable the
Thank
object.
you. Thank you so
whatever,
much.
I do not consent.
Thank you. Sir, if you could please, we might ask you to stay for questions if you would like to. Okay, if you would like to introduce yourself, state who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes. Yes.
Well, I gotta give it up to that
Chairman of the
neutral.
committee, my name is Mihai Cole. I'm the Director of Government Relations and State Affairs for the National Shooting Sports Foundation. I hope if you have some technical questions that you can ask me questions now, you can ask me questions later. I'm happy to answer those questions. So the first thing I'd like to note is, thank you for having this discussion about this. And then I think it's important, not to question the intent of the bill, but the content has some serious concerns. The idea that a barrel is the integral part of a firearm just isn't the case. And that is why you serialize receiver. So the receiver is the difficult part of the firearm to make. It's the critical component. That's why last year you required that any firearm developed in the state of Colorado with significant penalties be serialized. And so that's the critical component. This bill is not the same as the California bill. If you'd like to know the differences, I'd be happy to share them. But very specifically, this bill isn't about barrels. It's broader than barrels because, barrels are quite specific. This is any tube that could be used for a firearm. The other thing I'd like to note, and this is probably the primary concern of our membership, FFLs, is there's been some folks have said today that this keeps criminals from getting something because as a background check. It just simply does not. So there's no background check component in this bill. In fact, there's no dealer support in this bill because you're talking about a non-regulated item, non-serialized item, and there's no component of this bill that ties any of this information back to CBI. So it becomes a pile of paperwork that doesn't do anything, and the bill doesn't provide any support from the state for our dealers to implement any of that paperwork or the requirements of the bill. That's our primary concern, and I'm happy to answer questions about it.
Thank you so much. Sir, if you could introduce yourself, state your name, who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Michael Quillen, and I represent myself. In the time that we've all heard the news, we're always talking about the supremacy clause, where the Constitution overrides the federal, overrides the state, overrides local. And yet this bill that's before us actually violates federal law. It violates the Firearms Owners Protection Act, which basically states that there are no rules that are authorized or any records to be kept that has to do with the registration of firearms, their owners, or firearms transactions or dispositions be established. I find it funny that that individuals would write a law, and I think about the fact that they could be violating federal law. But then again, most of the bills I've seen here so far has violated the Constitution as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we will have Commissioner Applegate. You could state your name, who you represent, and you will have 2 minutes.
Okay. My name is Corey Applegate, and I'm an El Paso County Commissioner from District 4. So, Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm speaking today in opposition of Senate Bill 2643. At its core, this proposal aims to regulate a component rather than misconduct. A firearm barrel by itself is not a functioning firearm. It cannot chamber or fire a round, and in most situations, it's simply a replacement part used for routine repairs, maintenance, or simply sporting purposes. What stands out to me in this bill is that it creates misdemeanor liability, even when there has been no criminal misuse. As I read it, someone can be charged not because they harmed anyone, but because their transfer occurred outside of a newly required dealer process. That represents a meaningful shift, expanding criminal exposure into an activity that has traditionally been lawful. The intend to sell provision adds another layer of concerns. Laws that hinge on inferred intent rather than clear unlawful action can create uncertainty in enforcement. Intent is often misinterpreted after the fact, which makes it difficult for ordinary people to know where that line is. That certainly affects the hobbyists, the gunsmiths, and the individuals who want to keep many parts on hand and later decide to sell them. The definition of a firearm barrel further complicates this matter. It extends beyond finished barrels to include items that could be readily completed into one. That phrasing leaves room for interpretation. What a definition depends on might be completed or how quickly something can be converted. It creates gray areas that can be difficult to navigate or uneven to enforce. In addition, this bill significantly expands record-keeping requirements, mandating that dealers collect and retain detailed personal information for 5 years for transactions involving what most often a standard component part. That is a substantive
Thank you so much.
increase.
Thank you, sir. Your time has expired. Next,
Okay.
we will go to, thank you. Next, we will go to Teddy Collins.
Hey, let's see what he has to say.
My name is Teddy Collins. I serve as the Vice President of Industry for the Colorado State Shooting Association, and I'm here today in firm opposition to this bill. Let's be honest, this bill is not about oversight, and it's not about public safety. It's about punishing law-abiding businesses, punishing law-abiding Coloradans, and chipping away at our constitutional rights. For over a decade, this legislator has passed more gun regulations than almost anywhere in the country. New mandates, new reporting requirements, new compliance burdens year after year. And yet before the full effect can even be seen, here we are again, this body already layering on another mandate that accomplishes nothing. Barrels and components that are not serialized, they have no unique identifiers that can be reliably traced. So how you plan to enforce this is beyond me. All you're trying to do is kill local businesses in the state of Colorado and put undue burden on them. You cannot measure it, and you cannot claim it will stop crime. This is bureaucracy masquerading as oversight. Meanwhile, barrels can be purchased over the counter in other states and online with no requirements at all. Yet Colorado FFLs will bear the burden. Anyone intent on skirting Colorado law will do so easily. They're not going to go through an actual FFL to do this. The only people affected are law-abiding businesses right here in Colorado. Small manufacturers, gunsmiths, the cost of drill, more time, higher compliance expenses, increased risk of fewer jobs in the industry that's already struggling under your boot. This is not oversight. This is deliberate attempt to squeeze lawful businesses, to punish those who follow the law and weaken the Second Amendment, the 10th Amendment, and our Bill of Rights piece by piece. Shame on the legislators who support this. Shame on the body for allowing it to move forward, and shame on anyone who votes yes. We will remember when we go to vote this year. Knowing the results of job losses, economic harm, and assault on the constitutional freedoms, it's your duty and your oath that you swore to uphold to vote no on this bill.
Thank you so much. Members, are there questions for this panel? Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first question goes to Mr. Cole. You kind of touched on a little bit about maybe this could even.
Good job, Teddy. Good job.
Outlaw a piece of pipe.
Good job.
Could you kind of talk a little bit more about how there needs to be better definition or just what this?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you. Yeah, if you look at the California bill, it's a great contrast. So the California bill, I believe it's SB 704 that talks about this. Specifically, it provides just specific barrels for specific arms and also provides background checks through the state to do this. This bill doesn't do either of those things. Now, and that's because this bill is really broad, and the idea is I believe the intent of the bill is to capture anything that could become a barrel, that anybody could manufacture in a barrel. The problem is you have all sorts of different kinds of arms. You have high pressure, low pressure, rimfire, rifles, pistols, shotguns. And so all these things, you run from a high pressure 300 PRC barrel. It's a very, dedicated hunting gun to a dumb gun, like a 12 gauge shotgun makeshift pistol thing. Well, you're just talking about a pipe. And so we'd suggest that that probably wasn't the intent, was to capture everything that could potentially become a barrel, because obviously you can't control that. That's why ATF recognizes that. That's why it is, in fact, the receiver that is serialized. So I mean, this bill just, it's too broad. I don't think it's far too broad.
Thank you so much, Senator Pelton.
Thank you, and thank you for that. My next question goes to the Commissioner Applegate online, and I asked to sponsor this question. The bill on page 3 has up to 30 days in county jail. He referenced, well, the citizens pay for it, like when somebody goes into drunk tank, that's only like 12 to 24 hours. This is 30 days. Who's going to pay that bill? Is this an unfunded mandate on your county?
Commissioner.
Yes, it is, sir, because as far as I know, the way this this law is written right now, or this bill is written, trying to become law, we're not getting any compensation if someone gets arrested right now under this bill.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you. And my last question would be to Mr. Collins. You're an FFL. You have a gun store in the rural part of the state. Do you think it's the state's role to force you to become a middleman between barrel sales and lawful gun owners?
Mr. Collins.
No, sir. There's no way to track barrels. There's no identifying markers on these barrels. This is just a legislation in search of a problem. There's no issue with barrels currently in Colorado, and there's no way for Colorado to enforce this upon other states. Again, you can literally go online, purchase a barrel, and have it shipped to your home. That is federal law. So if the state is trying to do something here that isn't necessary, that won't have success, is going to create unfunded mandates.
Yeah, I
which we
mean,
are sick
my
of in
barrel
rural
for my
Colorado.
shotgun, I
on
bought
the
online,
county
and I had it
commissioners and
shipped
ways for
to
them
my
to try to
house.
fund this as a way around Tabor. We see this time and time.
Man, you guys are in
There's no
Louisiana.
It was a joke, and our senators need to do better to represent their constituents, especially this committee.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you all so much for being here. Okay, next we will call up Justin Green, Nathaniel Andres, John Hutchins, and Aaron Kroll. Paul Guajardo. Marcel Cajita. Edgar Antolon. Matthew Alexander. Okay, we'll start with these two for now and we'll come back. If you could please introduce yourself, state your name and who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Justin Green. I'm the owner of SDS Guns in Colorado Springs, secretary of the Colorado Federal Firearms License Association, and legislative chair of the Pikes Peak Firearms Coalition. I oppose SB 26043. I want to speak today strictly from a compliance standpoint, not politics, not philosophy, just logistics. Under federal law, a firearm barrel is not regulated. It is not serialized. It is not entered into our A&D records. It does not require a background check. It is a part. This bill requires an FFL to verify that a purchaser is not prohibited before transferring a barrel. Here's the problem. There is no lawful mechanism in the NICS to run a background check on a barrel alone. NICS can only be used for the transfer of a firearm. If I run a NICS check outside of that scope, I violate federal policy. And then I risk my FFL. So this bill forces every FFL in Colorado into a direct conflict. Comply with state law and risk violating federal law, comply with state law, or comply with federal law and violate state law. It's not theoretical, that is immediate, and that liability falls on us, the FFLs. If Colorado wants an eligibility verification system for the non-firearm component, the state must build its own system. That means system development, rulemaking, oversight, training, and staffing. There will be a per transaction cost to this bill. The fiscal note assumes zero fiscal impact, but if a verification system must exist, there will be a cost. As written, this bill is either unworkable or fiscally irresponsible.
Thank you so much. Before we move online, is there anyone else in the room who would like to testify against the bill? Please, if you could come up, state your name and who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes.
All righty. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ian Escalante, the Executive Director of Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, Colorado's No Compromise Second Amendment organization. Should
Awesome.
No surprise to the
Rocky
members
Mountain Gun Owners are here.
wholeheartedly in opposition to this bill for all the reasons of the folks who've come before me have mentioned, but also on the other side of the principle of regulating firearm parts. As we already know, the ATF does not define a barrel as a gun itself. It is a firearm part and is a firearm accessory. Fact of the matter is if you can start regulating barrels, we already regulate magazines in this state. You start, and in large part already regulate the type of trigger you can put in your gun. If they start regulating the barrels, if they start regulating the buffer tubes, if they start regulating the stocks, if they start regulating every single component of your gun, they can ban every single component of your gun. And that is the real problem here. The other side of it is that time and again, we've seen this body flirt with what I like to just refer to as a outright gun registry. And this is going to set up a registry. This is going to, these sales records that are required to be kept by the bill are going to have the barrel of the gun along with all of the personal information of the buyer that must be held by the federal firearms licensee for a period of 5 years. Who's going to access that information? I would assume probably law enforcement would be able to access that. And there's no sort of due process protections or Fourth Amendment protections in here at all. Can a law enforcement officer just show up to a gun store and say, okay, give me your sales records for all your barrels? If so, that poses a really massive problem and is a major invasion of privacy to gun owners in this state. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much. Before we go to Mr. Kroll online,
he's not wrong right there.
Daniel Finlayson. Great. While you're doing that, Mr. Kroll, if you could introduce yourself, who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Aaron. I am here representing myself, and as a FFL with a manufacturing license, I can tell you that almost anything can be turned into a barrel, and the way that you've attempted to define it is very loosely defined with no proper guidance. As such, I look very forward to the possibility of manufacturing firearms using otherwise everyday components as a barrel, so I can demonstrate that these components are in fact barrels, and then filing charges against everyone, including senators found in possession of these otherwise everyday items, because they would now be restricted unregistered barrels per your own legislation.
Damn, calling them out.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
The level of ridiculous. that this
Yeah,
bill
go ahead,
represents,
pass
because
this
that's
law,
what we're
and
doing.
then
We're
whenever
attempting to
you
enforce something that
have
is undefined and
some plumbing work
unenforceable,
done and you
as
buy a
otherwise
piece
mentioned,
of
it's not
pipe,
even possible as an FFL
you
to
go
determine
to
if
jail
somebody
for
is
having a
legally
barrel.
allowed to own a firearm unless I'm doing a background check specifically tied to a firearm. So there's going to be a whole lot of unenforceable mess with this, and I will take great pleasure in manufacturing firearms legally using everyday items so I can demonstrate that these items are barrels, and then using that to make a mockery of this foolishness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr.
I'll back him up on that.
Please introduce yourself, state who you're with. You'll have 2 minutes as well.
Thank you so much. My name is Daniel Fennelson. I'm the Director of Operations for the Colorado State Shooting Association. I am obviously in opposition of this bill, as were my colleagues and our allies over at CFFLA. This bill is not about actually saving lives. This bill is not about protecting the individuals here in the state of Colorado or reining in violent criminals. This bill is completely and utterly about emotions. This would not do anything to prevent the school shooting that I survived, the other tragedies that we've seen across our nation and now up in Canada. What we've seen here is that we have the senators who have written this bill have found ways to just make lives more difficult for the FFLs here in our state, to make it more difficult for people to stay in compliance and legally exercise their Second Amendment rights. This bill is one more step into making the gap between being a lawful gun owner and a responsible gun owner greater. And that is absolutely the intent of this bill. It is sad to see such a state as Colorado, with this long tradition of firearms and firearms manufacturing, continue to attack some of the most law-abiding citizens in our country. Concealed carry holders and other gun owners are the least likely to commit violent crimes or in crimes, period, according to the Crime Research Prevention Center. And yet we continue to attack them through bills like this that serve no purpose to defend lives. It doesn't even try to placate the idea of stopping crime. It only makes Second Amendment supporters as second-class citizens, and we are sick and tired of it. And so I'm actually spending the rest of my day to continue to fundraise, to have more money for lawsuits, to overturn these bills, so that every bill that you guys pass, we will challenge in the courts, and we will continue to win, especially after the Bruen case. So please vote no on this bill. Save the taxpayers' money from having to take you guys to court once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fennelson. Members, are there questions? Senator Zamora-Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is for Mr. Fennelson. I was wondering what policies could address mass shootings and violent acts that use firearms?
Mr. Fennelson.
Thank you, Chair. After I survived my school shooting back when I was at college, I took a long look at what laws either increase or decrease the frequency of those tragedies and other violent crimes that are committed with firearms. I found through looking at data, trends, facts, not feelings, that greater gun control like this leads to more deaths. Other solutions like targeting criminals and allowing individuals to defend themselves are the best ways for us to be able to prevent tragedies like this, like the Aurora shooting, like the Columbine shooting. And if we look at the statistical analysis, things like gun-free zones are some of the greatest indicators of where these tragedies are going to occur. And so as the Senate passes more of these legislations, we're going to see that these tragedies are going to continue to increase in frequency. And so that people like myself who have survived these tragedies and those who have had loved ones killed in these tragedies, that their numbers are going to increase. So I think the best policy that the Senate could pass, if we truly wanted to remove or start to reduce the frequency of these mass shootings and other violence committed with firearms, is to remove Senator Sullivan from the Senate. So a logical and fact-based approach.
All right, thank you so much. I'm sorry, we're not going to impugn the motives of any particular members. Are there further questions?
Yes, they did get rid of him because
Madam
he's
Chair.
operating off of emotional, not logical.
Mr. Escalante, you have been monitoring this for several years, and you've seen, I'm wondering if you could tell me the trend that we've been seeing as far as the gun laws that have been passed, red flag laws. The main goal of these is to save lives, but I know there's been laws minimizing the age. We've had, you couldn't buy a pistol if you're 21 years old. Did that save lives? We've had red flag laws. If you could kind of just highlight some of these things and if you've seen any change in saving lives.
Mr. Escalante.
Thank you, Senator Zamora Wilson. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I would say quite the opposite. If you look at the crime statistics in Colorado over the last 15 years, we have gone from one of the safest states in the nation to consistently in the last 5 years being at the same level of New York and California and Illinois with violent crime. There was a period of time, I think it was between the years of 2020 and 2023, that we were pretty much changing positions with those two states as the most dangerous state in America. Actually, literally on my way over here today in my car, I had someone come up and start banging on my window, screaming at me, trying to get inside my car. How am I so? What if that person would have had a weapon? What if that person would have done more than just come and screamed at my car and acted like a lunatic? If I were to defend myself in Denver, there's a likely, very likely chance that I would end up going to jail. While that person, I can literally, if I was to stand at that window, I could probably point that person out to you standing on the corner over there. So the fact of the matter is that Denver and Colorado as a whole has become significantly more dangerous in the last 15 years. And what's happened in the last 15 years? We have passed, I don't know, probably 40 new pieces of gun control, and that's probably on the low end, to be quite frank. So no, all this does is it puts peaceful Coloradans like myself, like the folks in this room, like single mothers who work downtown or live in a low-income area who have crime go on in their neighborhoods every single day. It puts them in danger. It makes it harder for them to be able to defend themselves. And then what it does is it strangles the industry which sells firearms in this state. Because the fact of the matter is this General Assembly knows if they went all the way and tried to ban every single gun, no court in America would put up with that. So what's happening now is we're seeing the industry being gone after. And if you can't buy guns, you really don't have a Second Amendment.
Thank you. Okay, there will be no outbursts or you'll be asked to leave. Thank you so much. That expires our time for this panel. I do just want to state for the record that state reports have shown that there's a double-digit decrease in violent and property crimes in our state in the first half of 2025 alone. So just wanting to note that and clear things up just a little bit for the record there. Next, we will call up online Missy Espinoza, Noah Hayden, Nick McFadden, and Michael Mensch.
I'm wondering what data they're using to find that out, that it's violent and property crime has decreased.
Their own.
I bet, and it's probably very left-leaning and not counting for the fact that some of these property crimes like that were defended by people with guns. So, yeah, I'm...
Okay, we'll start with Missy Espinoza. If you could state your name, who you represent, you will have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Missy Espinoza, representing myself. Vote no on this waste of our taxes, this unfunded mandate, as been said before me. There's zero need for this bill. You have no right to pass this. You're trying to criminalize a piece of metal, possession with intent to distribute. How ridiculous. I went to my favorite gun shop yesterday, ran by a mom and dad and their kids, and the dad is just feeling crushed. It broke my heart, like just crushed under the bills that you guys have passed. I don't know how you guys sleep at night, but you don't care about that family, do you? I'm praying for them to survive. We're looking forward to the day sneaky $1 million Sullivan is gone. We're going to celebrate.
All right, next we'll go to Noah Hayden.
Well, that was very short.
To the point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hi there, my name is Nicholas. I am a resident of Colorado, and I am completely against Senate Bill 26-043. First of all, this proposed rule is completely useless and redundant. Under existing federal regulations, a firearm receiver is the regulated part. So good news, they've done your job for you. It's what bears the serial number, and it's the part that you need a background check in order to obtain.
Straight out to the point right
if
there.
someone obtains a firearm receiver through illegal means, you know, they're already a criminal. What's stopping them from also obtaining the barrel through illegal means under this new law? They've already done the first step. What is the effect? This will have no positive effect on public safety whatsoever. What it will do is act as an unnecessary financial burden on honest Coloradans who want to upgrade their private property, their firearms that they purchased, and I will remind you, took a background check to obtain. Firearm barrels are a replaceable component that degrades with use. If I want to buy a car, I have to go to the DMV and obtain a title for that car. Would it be okay if I had to obtain a title for each and every set of tires for that car that I ever bought? No, that would be excessive and absurd. Just like this. 26-043 is a flagrant violation of the Second Amendment because it treats a fundamental right as a privilege to be taxed frivolously, which it is not. Rights are not privileges. This is not public safety. It is state-sponsored racketeering, and we do not need it. That will be all.
Really to the damn point right there.
Thank you. We'll go back to Mr. Hayden. If you could introduce yourself, who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you for your time. My name is Noah Hayden. I'm testifying here just on behalf of myself. I want to start this off by saying I recognize that sensible gun control laws can help ensure that certain weapons don't fall into the hands of dangerous criminals without needlessly penalizing gun owners. That said, I find it hard to argue that SB 26043 is a law meant to ensure public safety rather than a mechanism to apply additional fees to firearm purchases and provide law enforcement with a pretext to needlessly investigate law-abiding gun owners. SB 26-043, or under SB 26-043, working class Colorado residents who may eventually need a pistol or rifle for home defense, but are, like many of us, living paycheck to paycheck, would effectively be charged the FFL fees twice for having to purchase a gun in piecemeal. In light of recent events, I'm wary that the 5-year database that would be created by the FFL could be abused by federal and state law enforcement to escalate arrests. We're currently witnessing the presidential administration's willingness to send federal agents to the homes of political dissidents, and I don't have faith that this information could not be subpoenaed or leaked to federal agents and preemptively used to excuse extrajudicial murders like the ones we've watched in the streets of Minneapolis. In conclusion, I want to reiterate a point mentioned by an earlier speaker, that criminals who want to obtain these barrels can cross over into neighboring states to buy them. It's unclear why that trip would deter them if they're already willing to go through the burdensome process of manufacturing ghost guns. Meanwhile, lawful gun owners who are already jumping through hoops to abide by state laws will face another obstacle to own rifles or pistols while being punished by inviting undue scrutiny from police.
Thank you so much. And finally, Michael, we'll call you up. You'll have 2 minutes if you could please introduce yourself and state who you represent.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Michael Mensch. I reside in Senate District 31, and I am representing myself. I am here in opposition of this bill. This bill claims to address ghost guns and public safety, but it will accomplish neither. Instead, it criminalizes ordinary behavior, creates unenforceable regulations, and burdens law-abiding Coloradans while doing nothing to stop actual criminals. Imagine if Colorado tried to prevent drunk driving by requiring everyone who buys alcohol to register their purchase in a state database, show an ID, submit to a background check to ensure they are not prohibited from possessing, receiving, owning, or purchasing alcohol or operating a vehicle under state or federal law to complete the transaction. At only a licensed alcohol dealer, and it is made a misdemeanor to be in possession of alcohol with the intent to give it to someone. It would assume that most purchasers of alcohol intend to operate a vehicle while intoxicated and try to prevent it. Would that stop drunk drivers? No. People determined to drunk drive will ignore all regulations, buy from unlicensed sources, or make their own, while law-abiding citizens host dinner parties, would face paperwork, potential criminal charges for sharing wine. We don't prevent drunk driving by regulating wine bottles and creating databases of responsible drinkers. We prevent it by enforcing DUI laws and catching people in the act of dangerous behavior.
He's correct on that.
Effective drunk driving prevention uses sobriety checkpoints, breathalyzers, severe penalties, so on and so forth. With this law, you're assuming that someone is willing to commit multiple felonies. Illegal firearm manufacture that carries up to a 5-year prison sentence will suddenly stop because acquiring a barrel now requires a $500 misdemeanor risk and a form. That is security theater, not crime prevention. I think it burdens lawful citizens while the actual threat remains completely unaddressed, because criminals building ghost guns will simply manufacture barrels themselves or
Thank
acquire
you so
them
much. Your
legally,
time
just like drunk
has
drivers.
expired. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Members, are there questions? Seeing none, thank you all so much for your time. Next, we will call up Aaron Lewis, Alex Pacheco, Andrew Lucas, and Alvin Powell.
Barrel is just a piece of a gun.
Okay, Alex Pacheco, we will start with you. If you could state your name for the record and who you represent, and you'll have 2 minutes.
So, my name is Alex Pacheco. I am from Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm representing myself. This bill, I strongly oppose it because honestly, a barrel is just a piece of a gun. It can't do anything on its own. It's just essentially a bat. And you know, I understand, you know, gun violence is a problem that we have here in Colorado. I did lose 3 friends 3 months ago. But none of this, you know, would have ever prevented any of it. And if anyone ever wanted to, you know, go ahead and get their own gun or their own barrel, they would just drive 2 hours out of state in any direction and go get whatever they want. Criminals do not care about laws.
Yep.
They just do whatever they want. And
like, how close is to the near
that's how that goes.
Texas
or you don't prevent, you know,
Alabama
people from,
close to you?
You know,
They can
repairing
get you
anything
if they
else in
did something like
life.
this.
Like
You know, if you have, you know, like the other
4 or
guys,
so hours to
tires in their car,
Alabama,
they
like
don't
8
prevent that.
hours to Texas, depending
We
on
don't
which way you
regulate
go.
it,
It could
and
be
there's
4 to
honestly
8
no way
hours.
to even track any of this.
But if
No
you
way
really
to
wanted that
prove it in court,
barrel
this
that's
was
going to
bought,
help
you know, unless
you
you
shoot
catch
better,
them in the
you're going to
act,
travel that far
you know,
to go
buying
do
it
it.
in
Like
like a
blue
parking
can
lot
and
or
stuff
something
like
like
that.
that. But that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, we will go to Aaron Lewis. You could state your name, who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes. Sorry, then we'll go to Andrew Lucas.
I testified against Senate
My name
Bill
is Andrew Lucas,
003
and
last
I am
year
speaking on behalf of
in
myself,
person.
and I'm here to testify in opposition.
So
to this
now I'm
bill.
doing again for this one.
Requiring a background check on a barrel would be an unnecessary burden. You already have to do a background check to buy the receiver. The receiver is what makes it is what makes it work. The barrel is just the part. And like 2 other guys have just said, you don't have to get a title every time you buy a tire for a car. I mean, I hope not to be redundant, but both those people have a very good point. You know? And that all this does is just put unnecessary
And don't
burden
forget
on
that if you think about it,
sellers.
the
Because
zip
for those that
gun
have a specialty
craze
barrel,
in the 90s,
that's a problem,
the 80s
where
and
they're not even
90s,
an FFL. And then
where it was just
how they get when they had to
pieces
get a
of pipe
replacement
with
barrel.
that could
Problem.
fit
And then
around, and then
also, the barrel
a
is not the
forms
gun.
to shoot it.
The barrel is just a part. It's the receiver that makes it work. So why do you want to do this unnecessary burden when all it does is punish law-abiding citizens and punish FFLs and other kinds of sellers? So in closing, I ask you to think about that when deciding on how you vote for this bill, and I ask that you please vote no on this bill. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll come back to Aaron Lewis. If you could introduce yourself, who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Lewis. I'm a third-generation Coloradan, and I'm in strong opposition of SB 26043. I don't think I need to reiterate what the rest of everybody in opposition has already stated on this bill. So I'm basically going to cite one Supreme Court ruling from 1803, Madison v. Marbury. And it states, any law that is repugnant to the Constitution shall be null and void. Additionally, I don't know if you have noticed, but the majority of the panelists for this bill are in strict opposition. Please listen to your constituents and vote no. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you so much. And finally, Alvin Powell. Introduce yourself, who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Alvin Powell. I represent myself, and I'm a registered Democrat. Colorado Revised Statute 2911.7-102 states a local government, including a law enforcement agency, shall not maintain a list or other form of record or database of persons who purchase or exchange firearms or who leave firearms for repair or sale on consignment. Persons who transfer firearms unless the persons are federally licensed firearms dealers. The descriptions including serial numbers of firearms purchased, transferred, exchanged, or left for repair or sale on consignment. Definition of components, according to Firearms Owners Protections Act, includes the frame or receiver of a weapon, as well as components of the firearms or ammunition within its scope. I'm opposed to this bill.
Oh my God, that's a Democrat against the bill.
It's very loosely written in an attempt to create a firearms owner database. If you're buying a barrel, obviously you're owning a firearm or want to build one. You shouldn't have to go through a background check. That's already taken care of by NICS and our federal registry. It's actually not a registry, it's just a background check, but the point is made. So having to go through this whole background check and registration process to buy a component essentially creates a local firearms database, which is against Colorado law, and it violates the Firearm Owners Protection Act.
He's not wrong.
Thank you so much. Your time. Thank you. Your time has expired. Members, are there questions for this panel? Seeing none, thank you all so much for being here. We will now call up Austin
While they're
Lowry.
getting the next round, give it a
Charles
shout out to our
Daldry.
channel sponsor, Dubby.
Cody Harrison, Derek Brown, and Ed Schoenheit.
so far, there's a lot of people protesting against this bill.
A lot more than supporting it.
Oh yeah, and so then bringing up really good points, people. And I would like to just recover before we continue on hearing more of the testimonies before I have to get off of here and testify myself. Is that this bill is very vague. It does not really give very much good information about exactly what kind of materials of a fire barrel or anything like that. Not even 3D printing.
No, it strictly just says barrels. That's it.
Yeah. Big Hoss, what's your opinion on this bill so far?
It's really not fair to anyone because to do that, they would have to restrict hardware store piping because if, you know, like I said, back in the 80s and 90s, they had the zip gun phase. They were basically pipes that could
zip ties on.
Yeah, that you just put a round in, and then you just fire the round somehow.
They have the ones where you put the pipe and then you put the end of a joint, like the end of a pipe joint on it, and then drill a hole, and you put a shotgun round in and a nail, and then you basically hit the nail with a hammer, and it fires a shotgun round.
Yeah. And people who are watching this, listening in, or just now joining, you know, they're talking about firearm barrels. This is an example. If you look anywhere on here, there's no serial number on it. So they can't really track that at all. And so that's why a lot of people are saying the lower receiver is the one serialized because that's the main component of a firearm.
That's what makes it work.
Yeah. And so it's just ridiculous. So
capacity magazines in that time period when we would expect them to be proportional to the population and track national trends, about 5 to 5.5%. The additional conclusion we can draw from the silence regarding this grossly disproportionate figure is the Colorado legislature effectively regards Black Coloradans as expendable fodder to protect the white comfort sensibilities espoused by white suburban moms. End quote. I've personally had 2 of my own personal ghost guns stolen from me by the state, which were used to fluff up their crime statistic numbers mentioned by Mark Harris from Ceasefire.
Wow,
These
I
are
have
not
2 of their
genuine arguments, as I can also manufacture a barrel, not through 3D printing, but I will not explain the process as you'll attack it as well. So my previous testimony
cat's out of the
stated,
bag for
you
him.
cannot do anything to prevent this, as God is my witness. I will continue civilly disobeying your illegitimate body. You swore an oath, uphold it. That means shooting down this ineffectual bill. I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Derek Brown?
Jeez.
Your name and who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Yes, hello, my name is Derek Brown. I am actually from Pueblo, Colorado. I'm strongly opposed to this bill for multiple reasons. One, again, as I said, it's a barrel, it's a part, it doesn't do anything else. It's like requiring someone that you can't change your oil on your car. You need to go to a certified oil changer, and we're going to have to get your license, your identification, all that. We're going to keep it for 5 years. The other part that I would attack on here is it's always done the same thing. It's about public safety. It's about public safety. In 2024, Colorado had 958 deaths by firearm. That is based by the Centers of Disease Control. And in that, they found that 72 to 74% of them were suicide. So you take that, that's 721 people that were killed by gun violence by themselves. I don't believe that they're probably replacing the barrel after or even before the firearm that they already had.
He's not wrong.
It's ghost guns. Well, ghost guns, which they won't tell you, is a broad category. It's not just 3D printed guns. Someone steals a gun, they scratch off the serial number. It's a ghost gun. So now that's factored in there.
He's not wrong.
Let's say that 64 is the number that we see on that. Of those, I would say probably less than a percentage. They're replacing barrels to get in. They're stealing the gun. The barrel gets shot out or anything. They dispose of it and they go right to another stolen gun. The only thing that you're doing with this regulation is trying to further put out gun stores in the state of Colorado. And public Colorado alone last year, after the abundance of laws that you continue to shove down their throat, 3 gun stores have shut down already in this town alone in the last year. That's jobs lost, that's companies lost. This is nothing except an attempt to further burdensome gun owners and gun stores so that they shut down. So if we don't have anywhere to buy a gun, you don't have to worry about banning anything. That's exactly what Senator Sullivan wants, and that's exactly what Bloomberg wants when he keeps paying him to keep making these laws.
All right,
So
thank
that's
you.
the-
Your time has expired. Ed Schoenheit, if you can introduce yourself, state your name. Sorry.
Oh, this lady
Sounds like you were on a
testified
different-
for Senate Bill 3.
Sorry. Any questions for this panel? Great, seeing none, we will move to our next panel. Jeannie Rush, Jim Chamberlain,
Janie Rush, she is
Josiah
the one that
Neerman?
testified for Senate Bill 3 last year on this.
Keith Mosley, and Kelvin Curtis. Ms. Rush, if you want to start us off, state your name, who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Myself, Jeannie Rush. The vendetta at guns has gone from the sublime to the ridiculous. There are perhaps 100 million lawful gun owners who have saved hundreds of thousands of lives, while the shootings you all use for your statistics are in the thousands. Many lawful citizens working in the situations where they might be exposed to danger have taken care to do more than
Wow,
the
she
required
switched her
training
narrative
to
from last
protect
year.
themselves and their families and their neighbors. This saves lives much more than the fear and punishment of the lawful weapon owners that's getting carried out. And the violation of our Second Amendment rights is beyond the pale. The numbers of lives saved by lawful gun owners is very much greater, and this nonstop witch hunt needs to really stop. The last 12 plus school shootings were all done by young trans identifying people on excessive drugs, often given to trans youth, and antidepressants abused. Further,
She's
none
not
of
wrong
them
on there.
have been on these
No.
drugs that are so harmful. There's more drugs used as bullets than bullets. We all understand there are personal losses, and even that creates a deep hurt to those who have suffered directly. Many of us have suffered the same in the schools where they trans our family members and butcher their bodies. But I don't see the state stopping that. Do you realize you have 50,000 illegals, and they're getting license plates to drive with no insurance? That's more dangerous than worrying about the barrel of a gun, which is a part. Had lawful gun owners been at all these shootings, all the lives possibly would have been saved. And I think these kind of bills
She's
are
not
nothing
wrong.
but harm
No.
to the lawful millions over a few thousand. And what you're not doing is stopping the criminals.
Thank you so much.
who are
Your time has
shooting us.
expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Jim Chamberlain.
People, she's not wrong about what she said.
Could state your name, who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jim Chamberlain. I am representing myself. I am a citizen of Orfano County, Colorado, specifically in Levita. I come to you not just as a citizen, but as someone who spent 19 years in law enforcement, served as a police chief, and dedicated 26 years of my life as a combat veteran in the United States Air Force. I've led men and women in dangerous environments overseas, and I've stood beside officers here at home during some of those challenging moments our communities have faced. My opposition to House Bill 26043 comes from that lived experience. Throughout my career, I swore the same oath multiple times to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Colorado. That oath doesn't change with assignment, rank, or political climate. It's a commitment to both public safety and constitutional fidelity. From my personal perspective, the bill raises serious concerns regarding its practical impact on law-abiding citizens, law enforcement operations, and the relationship between the two. Effective public safety policy must be enforceable, constitutionally sound, and targeted at criminal behavior, not at responsible citizens who already comply with the law. As a chief, I learned that public safety is built on trust. Policies perceived as punitive towards responsible citizens risk eroding the trust and widening the gap between communities and those sworn to protect them. Law enforcement functions best when citizens see the officers as partners, not enforcers of laws they view are unjust or ineffective. As a combat veteran, I also understand the weight of governmental authority. I've seen firsthand what happens in places where individuals' liberties are limited in the name of security. America is different because our rights are not granted by the government, they are protected by it. Any legislation touching constitutional rights must be narrowly tailored. They must be evidence-based and clearly effective at addressing criminal misuse. Its goal to reduce violence and improvise safety, we should prioritize the targeted enforcement against repeat violent offenders, stronger penalties for criminal misuse of firearms, investment in mental health intervention and crisis response, and support for community-based prevention efforts.
Thank you so much. Your time is
Thank you.
expired. Thank you. Josiah Neerman. State your name, who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Josiah Neerman. I represent myself as a Colorado business owner in the firearms industry based in Salida as an 0107 FFL holder, SOT, state licensed firearm dealer, and I oppose SB 26043. I want to echo comments from earlier about how broad and fiscally irresponsible this bill is. We also need to look at how this bill would impact trade schools and training programs, pushing them potentially out of the state. This bill creates a paper trail that's transactional without addressing misuse or a way to track the reduction of criminal activity, and nothing in this bill addresses criminal behavior, violent crime, or firearm conversion. At some point, we need to stop treating lawful citizens and small businesses like the problem, stop making criminals out of the citizens of Colorado, and start prosecuting the criminals. I also want to address that business owners do not need the government telling us how to run our stores or suggesting this somehow helps drive sales. It's ridiculous. We operate responsibly without legislative assistance. Policy must be grounded in evidence and outcomes. For these reasons, I respectfully urge a no vote on SB 26043.
Thank you so much. Keith Mosley. State your name, who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hello, Keith Mosley, Broomfield, representing self. So I'm not a lawyer, but I did read the bill, and I found that there are contradictions that put me at risk. And so the bill asserts that only an FFL can sell a barrel, and then it also asserts that an FFL will be charged with selling barrels as well as transfers. One precludes non-FFL to non-FFL transfers. The other one does not. And that's important for the intent clause because it states that, let me catch up here. It states that if you're not an FFL and then you're in possession of a barrel and you have the intent to sell, that's a crime. But if the option is open to do a non-FFL to non-FFL transfer, then it really should state that a non-FFL in possession with the intent and the intent to bypass an FFL transaction, that would be a crime. And that's important. As an example, I just had 3 barrels replaced, match consumables, and now I have barrels that still have value. And under this bill, I really couldn't do anything with them. Couldn't sell them, couldn't transfer them, couldn't give them to a junior or another competitor, and probably couldn't even recycle them.
Huh?
Oh, sorry, distraction.
Nope, that's okay.
And then,
Yeah, we're
sorry. And then furthermore, I noticed that Curio and Relic, as well as muzzle loaders, are not exempt. They're subject to this. And those industries aren't accustomed to.
I mean, if you do you need somebody to go with you?
I worry that on a traditional black powder muzzle loader barrel, they will just skip selling to Coloradoans instead of trying to go through an FFL.
Because we're doing the podcast right now.
Thank you so much. And finally,
I don't know.
Calvin Curtis. State your name, who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair Wallace and committee members. My name is Kelvin Curtis. I serve as the state director for the National Rifle Association right here in Colorado. On behalf of the National Rifle Association and our thousands of members across the state, I'm here today to testify in steadfast opposition to Senate Bill 26-043. This legislation constitutes a direct infringement upon the Second Amendment rights of responsible residents of Colorado. in accordance with the standard established by the United States Supreme Court in New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin, it is incumbent upon the government to demonstrate that any firearm regulation aligns with the nation's text, history, and tradition. Historically, there is no tradition in this country of applying equivalent restrictions to metal components, merely parts that are applied.
You know, a lot of these people are not wrong about
Senate
what's
Bill
going on here.
26043 imposes a burdensome and unconstitutional mandate requiring all firearm barrel transfers to be conducted in person through a federal licensed firearm dealer. This effectively criminalizes private sale or transfer for basic spare parts between law-abiding citizens. Furthermore, the bill introduces a new unclassified misdemeanor for the mere act of non-FFL possessing a barrel with the intent to sell or transfer it, which entails a penalty of up to 30 days of incarceration and a fine of up to $500. And furthermore, the bill established a concealed registration scheme. It mandates the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to develop a form that requires the collection of purchasers' full legal name, residential address, telephone numbers, and government identification. And more concerningly, it stipulates that the
Thank you so much. Your time has expired.
You know, it seems like a lot of people are going over the time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this question is for Mr. Neiman, I believe. This bill mandates dealer record keeping, directs the CBI to create a new compliance form. I kind of talked to a county commissioner earlier and asked a question about how this unfunded mandate. Do you see this having a fiscal impact, even though the fiscal note on this bill is zero?
Mr. Neiman.
I do. In accordance to the new FDD rules, the 7602 document that we have to create for every pistol form purchased, it does. You know, we have to have the storage for those documents. We have to have the time to create those. Unsure on the actual estimate of what that fiscal responsibility will be, but the documentation of everything is going to take some time to figure out like what it will actually require on the staff time, and then making sure our records are accurate and true.
Thank you so much, Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in my mind, just gleaning a little bit of what you said, this is going to be an unfunded mandate on you. It's going to be an increased cost of business. Is that fair?
Mr. Neiman.
Fair, yes.
Thank you.
Further questions, members? Seeing none, thank you all so much for being here. Next, we will call up Kellen Lanier, Leo Hermosillo, Mark Ball, Mark Olson, and Peter Stone. Mark Olson, if you want to start us off, you can introduce yourself, state who you represent, and you'll have 2 minutes. Mr. Olson, can you hear us? If you'd like to come off mute, you can testify.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello, good morning.
There's not very many people in the room.
I represent
No.
the Force Shooting Center in my. I strongly urge you to oppose this bill, as it's putting an undue and unfair extra regulation, as many of the people before me have stated, against law-abiding citizens. For myself, it's less of a deal because I do own an FFL. However, I am the super minority in the state of Colorado compared to the majority of your constituents, that this is handicapping them to get replacement barrels for the competitors, who I am also an avid competitor with. Most of them need to replace barrels as they shoot them out throughout the year. It is competitively unequitable for them to deal with guns that are less accurate because their barrels are reaching the lifespan of the gun. more importantly, I think this also is going to negatively affect hunters that are using big bore rifles to hunt large game in the state of Colorado, which is a huge attraction here for us. As these barrels reach the lifespan of their shelf life, that grouping will start to open up, and so we're going to start ending up with more unethical kills on animals where we're not getting clean shots on them, where any of this variation as we're aiming at these animals due to the cone of fire opening on these barrels is going to cause those unclean kills, where now we've got hunters tracking animals for longer, and we're causing unnecessary pain and suffering to, again, legally harvestable game within the state of Colorado. On the other side, I am a firearms instructor that travels the nation. I host both law enforcement and mill contracts all across the nation. This is also going to handicap me and some of my assistant instructors in getting the equipment we need to fulfill those contracts regularly. Where if a department in Missouri contracts with us to teach their SWAT team on active shooter response and they run 10.5-inch barrels, but I mainly use 14.5-inch barrels, I can no longer, and my assistant instructors can no longer readily procure the required things to raise law enforcement's ability. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to Peter Stone next, but before we do that, can we please pull up Mark Tisdale, Rise Williams, and Ronald Dietz? And Peter Stone, if you could introduce yourself, state who you represent, and you'll have 2 minutes. Mr. Stone, can you hear us?
Yes, sorry.
That's all right.
I'm outside. I'm working. My name is Peter Stone. I'm a resident of Colorado. I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 43. This is among all the factors that have been said by the previous panelists. This places an undue burden upon the citizens of Colorado. A good many of our citizens in the state of Colorado thoroughly enjoy their Second Amendment rights. We're overwhelmingly good people, and this bill seeks to place a burden on us in hopes that it achieves some type of meaningful effect with regards to decreasing crime or something to that effect. Again, there's no information to support this. There's no data that corroborates this. Again, it imposes financial burdens on everyone from Mr. Neiman and Salah to myself. I work within the firearms industry in Mesa County. I am also a very avid, passionate about firearms. I like to assemble my own firearms. And so oftentimes when I go to purchase a firearm, I will undergo a background check to purchase the receiver. And then sometime later, because funds aren't as freely as available for a lot of things for a lot of Coloradans, sometime later I will then purchase other components such as a barrel. At that time, if this bill had passed, I would now be required to undergo another check and pay for additional fees and whatnot associated with this, because again, this bill is unfunded. The federal firearms license dealers are going to then be able to have to pass that those costs down to the citizen. Again, this is just hurting everyone. This is not the way to go about this. It's misguided. I understand. I believe some people believe there are things we can do.
Thank you so much. Your time has expired, but thank you for being here. Next, we'll go to Mark Tisdale. You can introduce yourself, state who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Mark Tisdale. I'm a resident of Colorado. I represent myself. I'm against this bill as it will do nothing to reduce the effects of violent crime. This is only a means to push the members of the firearms industry out of business in this state. It will force then citizens to either violate the law, to procure items that are needed to exercise their Second Amendment, or they will flat out have to except that they are not able to exercise their Second Amendment right because they will not be able to procure the items needed for that. This bill is completely unenforceable also, as people have mentioned before, with the fact that barrels are typically unserialized. There will be no way for the state to decide to prove that I, as a citizen, bought a barrel outside of this state or bought it illegally inside the state or through an FFL legally in this state. This is just a attempt to restrict the rights of a group of citizens that are treated as if they are less than by this legislature and continually treated as if they are responsible for all the evils and that occur within our state. We're talking about a group of citizens who inherently are the most law-abiding members of society, and we are treating them as if they are the worst members of society and responsible for everybody else's actions. This has been a continual process by the legislature over the last 10 years or so.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Your time has expired. Rice Williams. State your name, who you represent, and you'll have 2 minutes.
My name is Reese Williams. I am representing myself, and I would like to start by saying I am a registered Democrat, and I've always been a registered Democrat. I would like to also state that prior to 2024, following a number of significant threats of sexual assault, violence, and even death against my friends and loved ones for their left-leaning political beliefs, ethnic backgrounds, and/or LGBTQ+ identities, I myself was largely anti-gun. Now, to the Democrats who represent me in this room, I ask why now is the time to pass this bill. At a time when there are threats of civil war and vigilante violence, where lawmakers of your own party have been murdered in acts of stochastic terrorism, where agents of immigration and customs enforcement are breaking into homes without warrants and executing citizens in the streets without due process. This is the exact situation the Second Amendment was designed to address. Yet at a time when your constituents, such as myself, are at risk of being killed or harmed for our political beliefs, when federal agents are rampaging through cities and kidnapping people without due process, you seek to make firearm ownership more inaccessible than ever. Rather than break the monopoly on firearm ownership that the GOP politicians largely hold and which emboldens them to continue their violent and hateful rhetoric, you seek to exacerbate that monopoly. A hostile email was directed at your office at the beginning of this session. This is proof of what I'm talking about. I find it difficult to see why we should unilaterally disarm ourselves when there's such a high threat of political violence against us. And honestly, if you don't let my loved ones and I protect ourselves from the threats we are suffering, I don't know how I can continue to put my faith in you to keep us safe. I yield my time. Thank you very much for your opportunity to speak.
Of course. Thank you so much, and apologies for mispronouncing your first name, Reese.
It's no problem. It's an odd spelling.
Next, we'll go
Step out for a minute because I'm testifying against that bill.
Can we mute him, please?
So you only get 2 minutes to talk.
Can you mute that person, please? Thank you. Next, we'll go on to Ronald Dietz. State your name, who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Good. Okay, I was just muted. So thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ronald Dietz, and I am speaking in opposition to this bill. This bill, like all other gun control, the fallacy of all gun control bills, especially this bill, is that it does not apply to criminals. This bill carries that fallacy to the extreme, whereas an extreme example, criminals are not going to care about bills. Criminals get their guns through the black market. The vast majority of them. They do not get them through gun shows, gun stores, or anything like that. And they get their guns, they use them in the commission of the crime, and then they discard them or they pass them down the chain of command to the lower level criminals. Guns do not cause crime. For example, last year, over 14 million guns were purchased by American citizens, and yet the murder rate has reached its lowest level since 1900. If more guns equal more crime, then we wouldn't see that kind of stuff happening. The problem with barrels is that this is a backdoor attempt to get around the forbidden or the law forbidding the accumulation of a registry of gun owners, because they're trying to say because a barrel is not a gun, therefore we can register it, and this will tell everybody what kind of guns they have, because barrels are very gun specific. So this bill will not make anything any better. It's just
He is
an anti-gun bill,
right and wrong.
trying to accomplish or make an incremental step to the real purpose of these gun bills, which is
Yeah.
to disarm the American people. Thank you.
Yeah.
To put it in, yes, 9mm are for 9mm. There's certain types of 9mm that have different designs for the barrels, because how their firearm is designed. Same thing with rifles, like that. But when they're multi-caliber, they're interchangeable. Like the Glock 19, it's interchangeable from 3rd generation to the 4th generation, or the 4th generation to the 5th generation barrel. So they're interchangeable like that. So that's where he's right and where he's wrong as well too. But different calibers require it be the same, but there is certain ones.
I gotta
Mr.
step
Sun, you
out.
seem to have cut out a bit.
So I'm gonna be leaving. If y'all are still on when I get back, I'll join back in. If not, then
All
this
right.
was great.
Sorry about that. Do we
All
have
right.
further questions?
You have fun.
Senator Button.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Dietz, would you have any idea how what this might do to the price of barrels in this state?
Mr. Dietz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the question, Senator. I think there's no way it's not going to increase the price of the barrels, because the only people who really get into barrels are people who shoot a lot and wear out their barrels, and most criminals don't do that. So, yeah, it's going to increase the price tremendously.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you all so much for being here. Next, we will call up Chasen Kelly, Michael White, Bob Bergstrom, Sarah McCurley, Seth Stern, and John Dorsey. One more time, those names are Chasen Kelly, Michael White, Bob Bergstrom, Sarah McCurley, Seth Stern, or John Dorsey. Okay.
Chair, members.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you Chasen?
I am.
Okay, great. If you could, you're perfect because I'm going to start with you. So if you could state your name, who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes.
Right. Well, Chair and members of the committee, my name is Chasen Kelly. I'm a Colorado resident, a retired fire battalion chief, a husband, and a father of 2. I spent 17 years in public safety. I understand accountability, regulation, and somewhat criminal law enforcement. I'm here today in opposition to this bill, SB 26-043. This bill criminalizes the private sale of or transfer of a firearm barrel and makes it an unclassified misdemeanor to possess one with intent to sell. In my world, the fire service, we didn't regulate tools without clear evidence that doing so would actually reduce harm. Criminals who intend to commit violent crimes are not sourcing parts through lawful, good faith private exchanges. They are not deterred by record-keeping requirements. What this bill does is place additional burden and potential criminal charges or liability on law-abiding citizens and small businesses. Many Coloradans repair, build, and maintain firearms legally and responsibly. Hunters and competitive shooters and hobbyists often replace their barrels, as people have already mentioned. Under this bill, even possessing a barrel with the intent to sell could trigger criminal charges. This is a significant expansion of criminal liability over a non-serialized component. As someone who has spent nearly 2 decades responding to real emergencies, I urge you to focus legislatively energy on measures that address violent offenders directly, not additional regulations on parts owned by responsible citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Michael White. If you could state your name and who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes as well.
Hear me?
We can.
Okay, cool. My name is Michael White. I am representing myself. I am a resident of Loveland, Colorado, have been my whole life. And I'm here to testify against this bill. It is really an unenforceable piece of legislation, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit. There is no serialization of barrels, as other folks have already mentioned. There's no way to track a barrel and who purchased it and when and how, or if it was grandfathered in. There is no way to tell if somebody purchased something out of state. Like others have said, you can literally, from where I live in Loveland, it's an hour drive to Cheyenne. I could purchase a barrel all I wanted there. And again, we're talking, this isn't just rifle barrels. We're not just talking rifle barrels. We're talking all firearm barrels, from what I understood from reading this. So, I mean, it's a 3.5, 4-inch piece of metal all the way up to 18, 20-inch pieces of metal. There's no really comparable legislation ever like this. They're not firearms, and they aren't firearms until they're attached to a receiver. And those are the regulated parts, and they should stay that way. There's no reason to regulate barrels this way. And quite frankly, I don't think there is any historical tradition that would justify this under a Bruin analysis. And with that, I yield my time.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go to Bob Bergstrom. If you can please come off mute, introduce yourself. You'll have 2 minutes. Okay, we'll go to Sarah McCurley. If you can
There's a
introduce
lot of
yourself,
people
state who
against
you
this
represent,
bill.
you'll have 2 minutes.
There was like what, 5 people that was for it?
Hi, thank you for having me today.
Yeah.
My name is Sarah McCurley. I represent myself. I am a Colorado native. I've been living in the state over 40 years. I'm on the western slope. Apologize for any background noise you may hear. I am at work. I am against this bill, and I urge you to also be voting against this. The concerns I have, besides just the what feels like an attack against the Second Amendment, my concerns are going to be for my friends that own gun shops and our legal business owners on how they're going to handle the cost of it, why they should be burdened with this. I don't understand how in the fiscal note that it shows that there's going to be a minimal state workload and a minimal state revenue effect of this impact of this bill, when we're going to see sales revenues go down, which affects everybody. We're going to see a lot of job loss when a lot of these mom and pops go out of
people, there is like
when they have
no
2 to 10 employees. That
revenue
affects everyone
stated
in
on
my
it.
community. I can name 10 of my clients. I work at a veterinary clinic that are employed by a small gun shop here in town. And if they're not able to keep their jobs because of this bill, how are they going to be able to afford their pet care, their food, their groceries, pay tax revenue in the state? They're going to leave. We're going to lose a lot of money is how I see this. I also don't see how it's going to be enforceable the way it's written with everyone else's concerns about all my current guns that I have. I'm a hunter. I am a sportsman. It's just fun to go out and recreate with my firearms that I do safely and legally. How are the ones I already own going to be protected? I don't see that written in this bill anywhere, and I've not heard that addressed today. I've heard it concerned by other people that are against
Yeah,
this
and like
bill,
they
but I've
said,
not
if
heard
she's a hunter, she's
how
going to
the
have to
plan
change the
is to
barrel
protect us
eventually.
legal residents
Yeah,
of
and also
Colorado. Stay that way.
barrels are not an absolute
Thank you so
thing
much.
that
Next,
is
we'll go
not
to
going to
Seth Stern.
degrade.
No,
And
because
barrels,
rifling will wear out.
If you could
through
yeah,
introduce
excessive use.
yourself, state who you
yeah,
represent, you'll have
because
2 minutes.
you can fire that one wrong bullet that has way too
Greetings,
much
sir.
gunpowder,
Annual
and your
meeting
barrel is
of
going to explode.
communists, cowards, and
For example,
etc.
Kentucky ballistic.
The senator from New York continues
Oh,
in his crusade to attempt.
He
oh yeah, that
he
50
bought
cal.
some what he didn't know was reloaded slap rounds, and it blew up his 50 cal and almost killed him.
Yeah. So he was likely he survived out of it, but yeah.
A California light with
If he
increasing
hadn't
crime
stuck his
rates,
thumb in his
soft on crime
throat
Democrats,
wound, he
hard
would
on
have
lawful
bled out
gun
to
ownership
death.
Democrats, and
Yeah.
basically feckless and borderline useless Republicans is just really not going to do us a whole hell of a lot of good. The attempt to regulate a firearm part that has no more bearing on criminal activity than the bullet itself is just further slide into insanity. You have to stop judging these programs by their intents and start judging them by their results. The results of the Democrat policies regarding gun law have been increasing violent crime in this state, increasing theft. You have utterly meritless direction when it comes to how you're actually managing as the majority. And quite honestly, it's as disgusting as what happens in Indiana with a borderline supermajority of the Conservative Party. These ways of doing business are just awful.
Did they just
I would
mention
really
Louisiana?
like to give you some
No,
form of direction other than stop violating the basic constitutional rights
Let
and
me
common
go back
sense
over the
that
transcript.
exists allegedly between most of your ears. But the simple fact of the matter is you just continue to ice skate uphill trying to punish us for having different values than you do. 64 counties in the state. If we each had a senator, this would not be the way the state is being run by any means. And it would make a hell of a lot more sense than giving all the power and authority to urbanite leftists who have utterly no comprehension of real life outside of what they've been taught in their Marxist institutions. I hope you stop this soon. And if not,
Indiana
if the building
is what he
collapses
said.
on top of you, I think the world's a better
Indiana.
place tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go to John Dorsey. You could introduce yourself, state who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Yeah, hi, I'm John Dorsey. I represent myself. Been a resident of Colorado about 38 years. I'm a disabled Navy vet. And I oppose this bill strongly. This is not the first time I've given testimony to various gun bills. Really get tired of having to do this. And I can't believe the way the state has been going downhill the last 12 years. What I can say, or what I will say that maybe it hasn't already been said, I suggest that everyone on this panel take a look at this book. It's written about almost 20 years ago. The Founder's Second Amendment, Origin of the Right to Keep and Bear Arms by Stephen P. Holbrook. I can send you a copy if you want. I've been reading this book for almost 20 years. Probably read it a dozen times. Basically, when I was in the military, I swore an oath to defend and uphold the Constitution. I'm assuming that the members of the Senate have done the same thing. When I look at bills like this, obviously you have no idea what the Constitution says, especially the Second Amendment. That's why I recommend you get this book and study it. That's all I'm going to say. Again, I oppose this bill.
Yeah, basically, read what you wrote and then come back to me.
Thank you so much. Next, we will go to Bob Bergstrom.
He said, "Get this
Introduce
book
yourself,
and
state who
study
you
it."
represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Wow.
Good afternoon. I'm Bob Bergstrom, live in Meade, Colorado, and I want to start with a question. What I have here is a barrel. The firearm it's going to go into is a Bradford County flintlock rifle. So the end result is not a firearm, it's an antique replica. And yet I have a barrel. How will this law address that? It seems unclear and poorly worded.
Yeah, it looked like Tom
job
Sullivan didn't know what the hell he was
running a
talking about
precision machine
with
shop.
firearm parts.
Our little shop here in Longmont has made 22,000 different parts for the Artemis program. Part of my retirement plan is to ease into retirement by building non-FFL controlled parts, specifically for Ruger 22s.
I am up.
I just fail to see how regulating a piece of metal, and when I get it, it literally is a piece of metal, does anything to make people safer. Precision rimfire shooting is a huge growing sport. It's something that I love being involved in, and I would love to build the barrels as well. I've probably spent well over $3 million on equipment over the last 20 years. So I do have to ask, if this passes and I'm not able to do barrels, is that a constitutional taking? And how will similar businesses to me
Thank you so much. Your time has expired, but appreciate seeing someone from Longmont here. Thank you for your testimony. Members, are there questions for this panel? Seeing none, thank you all so much.
Cowards.
We will now pull up Sean Seidman, Sean Veach, Terrence Toyoma Mancow, and Todd Morley. Is there anybody else in the room who would like to testify against the legislation who has not testified? You can come up. We'll start in person while folks are getting pulled up online. If you could state your name, who you represent, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Matt Alexander. I'm a small business owner from Canyon City, a school board director for Canyon City Schools, a single father of 3, a 4th generation Colorado native. My family has called this home for more than 120 years. Senate Bill 26043 attempts to regulate the sale of firearms, but it defines barrel so broadly that it sweeps in far more than finished parts. Under this bill, a barrel includes any forging, casting, printed body extrusion, or machined article that can readily be completed into a barrel. When a law cannot clearly distinguish a gun barrel from a metal tube, it becomes impossible to enforce fairly. This bill also requires every barrel sale to go through an FFL in person with extensive personal information recorded and stored for 5 years. Yet the bill never requires a serial number of any kind, no unique identifier of the barrel itself. Without a manufacturer's mark or unique code, there is no way to specifically match a specific barrel to a specific record. This state would have a registry of names, not a registry of barrels. It criminalizes ordinary people for possessing spare parts with the intent to sell them unless they go through an FFL. That affects hunters, competitive shooters, hobbyists, and families selling estates, but it does not affect violent offenders. We must ask, what problem is this really solving? Colorado has already some of the strictest gun laws in the country, too many to list in my 2 minutes before you. Yet according to the Colorado Department of Public Safety and Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, firearm use in violent crimes and firearm-related deaths has increased in recent years, not decreased. More regulations on the law-abiding citizens have not produced more safety. Criminals are not getting their guns or parts from licensed dealers who carefully fill out forms and store records. They get them through theft, trafficking, and the black market. No criminal has ever abandoned a crime because a barrel had to be logged on a CBI form. This bill creates paperwork,
Thank you so much. Your time has expired. Thank you so much.
I urge you
Thank
to reject. Thank you.
All right, next we will move online to Sean Seidman. If you could introduce yourself, who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes. I'm sorry, I think we're having trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's it.
Cool. Awesome. You got my last name right. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Sean Seidman, represent myself. Live in Denver, Colorado. Last year when I talked about SB 003, I had a decade of software engineering and cybersecurity experience. This year, I have more than a decade. Here to respectfully oppose 043 based on legal feasibility, cybersecurity risk, and understated cost. Hear me out, coming at it from an analytical perspective. Federal background checks through NICS, legally limited to determining eligibility to purchase a firearm. It is not authorized for standalone components like a barrel, and it cannot be repurposed for a general eligibility screening. Because of this limitation, this bill effectively requires Colorado to do one of two things: mandate a check that cannot actually be performed within an existing federal law on a federal system, or build a new statewide background check or eligibility verification system in, February, March, April, May, June, July. Don't know if anybody has run Security Scorecard on the CBI website or Colorado Gov. We are at an abysmal 70% with over, I think it was like last I counted, 150 CVEs. And I am not going to bore you with our session cookie missing HTTP only, session cookie missing secure, redirect HTTP chain contains, website referencing object storage. But do we trust Colorado to build that out in 4 months, securing all of your PII? Totally legal to go for anybody to go check that on Security Scorecard. But, excuse me, from a software cybersecurity standpoint, building a new statewide verification system would require identity validation, secure data storage of your PII information, dealer-facing tools, audit logging, long-term breach protection costs and risks not associated in the fiscal note. The bill regulates a non-serialized component that can.
Thank you so much. Your time is expired. We appreciate you being here. Next, we'll go on to Sean Beach. You could introduce yourself.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
We can. You'll have 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, committee. My name is Sean. I represent myself and my firearm business. This bill is framed as a public safety measure. This bill does nothing to address the root causes of gun violence. Instead, it unfairly burdens law-abiding citizens and businesses like mine. Let's see. We already, as a firearm business owner, I'm already regulated by state and federal laws, local laws. This just adds more of a burden, more paperwork, more of a just hassle all in general for something that you can't even trace, for something that even if they go through a background check to get a barrel, if it doesn't have a serial number and it's used in a crime, how are you going to follow that trace or follow that barrel? It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I feel like this is just a giant clear overreach, and it's just taking another chip at the Second Amendment. And you know, we're already regulated to the, you know, to precision, and it's, you know, I just think this is a waste of time. I think money and your time should be spent, you know, stopping human trafficking, the drugs flowing into the state, things of that nature. This will not do or stop any of that. So that's it. You know, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go to Terrence Toyama Mancow, and if we can also pull up Mark Ball. Terrence, if you can introduce yourself, state who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes.
All right. My name is Terrence Toyama Mancow. I am here representing myself. I'm a private gunsmith and a firearm instructor. I hold an associate's degree in firearm technology and a certificate in handgun specialist. So I'm happy to answer any questions for you guys about this. This bill is unconstitutional. The barrel is a unserialized part. Unless you can get the federal government to sign a bill saying that all barrels need to be serialized, this will never hold up. There are many barrels out there that can be interchangeable to different models. For example, the Glock 19. It can be interchangeable with the barrels from different generations. A Gen 3 Glock 19 can go on to a Glock 19 Gen 4, and same thing with a Gen 4 to Gen 5. So how is this bill going to help regulate any of that? I've seen in the bill that you need the make and model for what the barrel is used for. Well, if the barrel is interchangeable, how can we know exactly for sure? And for second, why isn't there really anything on the financial note? When I look at it, it's all zeros. So how is this going to really help us determine how it's going to help Colorado? Right now, Colorado is in a big, huge deficit, and what I've heard is that there's no funding. So this is really hurting the state of Colorado. A lot of Coloradoans rely on these gun shops to actually provide financial support for the state of Colorado with all these taxes that you guys are charging them. What we should really be focusing on is the mental health treatment, education, and a lot of these other crimes that are happening. So we need to be more focused on that than parts.
Thank you so much. Next, we will go on to Todd Moore. Oh, I'm sorry.
Very well spoken.
We just heard from Todd. Okay, Mark Ball. Can we get Todd Morley, please? If you could introduce yourself, state who you represent, you'll have 2 minutes.
I am Todd Morley. I'm a 30-year resident of Colorado. I represent myself. I'm just here today to suggest that the authors of the bill consider narrowing the bill to exclude bolt-action rifles. Those you've heard from today that represent the hunting and recreational shooting community are often referring to bolt-action long guns. A barrel for a bolt-action long gun weighs 4 to 10 pounds. The machines that manufacture them in some cases are 100 years old because you can't even get them anymore, and they weigh several tons. And manufacturing a barrel for a long gun like my hunting rifles is an extremely arcane technical activity. It's not something a criminal does. Your bill is just going to add, I don't know, somewhere between $30 and $100 to the cost of acquiring a barrel for a hunting rifle. It already takes me, in some cases, I have to wait a year to replace a barrel, and I replace a couple of barrels a year routinely. I'm just becoming a competitive shooter, and I may be replacing 10 barrels a year if I become serious about that. And this bill would be onerous for people like me, let alone for the unfortunates who already can barely afford their guns. Thank you. I yield back the rest of my time.
Okay, and finally, we will hear from Jonathan Hiltz. If you could state your name, who you represent, and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Hitt. I represent myself, and I would like to start by just thanking this assembly and my fellow constituents for taking the time. This is really the foundation of democracy. A couple points I would like to make is that in reading the text of the Second Amendment in the Constitution, we find that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, if you look up the definition of keep in any dictionary, I chose Merriam-Webster for convenience, you'll find that keep does not only entail possession, but it entails the maintenance of. And a barrel is a disposable, perishable, wearable component on a firearm, and is therefore necessary for the maintenance and safety, in particular, of the firearm. So in regulating a barrel, which is implicitly protected under the Second Amendment, you would be, I believe, infringing upon the Second Amendment. Furthermore, in doing so, it raises concerns of a First Amendment infringement in the compulsion of people in exercising their Second Amendments to divulge personally identifiable information. One other point I would quickly like to raise is that I feel like this increases a socioeconomic divide in the state of Colorado, in which people who are more disadvantaged are disproportionately encumbered by legislation such as this. And what I mean by that is that the cost incurred, and there will be a cost in exercising barrel transfers, or your rights to barrel transfers, will be felt more by people who are more disadvantaged. And I don't believe that is at all appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Members, are there questions for this panel? Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And and I'm going to badger it, I'm sure, Toyamko, in your opinion, say a father has a son that has a hunting rifle or something and the barrel needs replaced, and he happens to have that barrel or acquire a barrel, to give that to his son for his gun, is he going to have to follow this bill and go through the checks, go to an FFL, pay the fees and everything, in your opinion?
Mr. Toyama Manko.
In my opinion, if this law or bill was to be passed, yes, because it's pretty much you're transferring it from one person to another. It doesn't really matter who it is, because the bill does not specifically say immediate family members are exemption or family members are exemption. It says sell, buy, or transfer a firearm barrel. So yes, he would have to go through an FFL dealer, and depending on his son's age, that would be nearly impossible if he's under the age limit for the bill. And so it makes it harder for people, especially family members, to help out other family members when the barrel either one, degrades, explodes because maybe a bullet that they fired at the range blew up the barrel. They can't replace it if this bill was passed. So it puts a lot of burden not only to the gun dealerships, it also puts a burden on family, friends, and all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, further questions? Seeing none, are there Is there anyone else in the room who would like to testify on the bill? Great. Seeing none, the witness testimony phase is no. Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Pelton.
Is there a Kellen Lanier online? Lanier.
Kellen Lanier? No. Seeing none, seeing no further witnesses, the testimony phase is closed. On to amendments. Are there any amendments to the bill?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Members, none. Okay. Are there closing remarks? Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, everybody, for being with us today and being a part of this. It kind of went just kind of how I foresaw it. There would be a lot of misinformation, a lot of hyperboles, thoughts about what could possibly happen instead of actually having any full-fledged data and specifics to what concerns are. I think maybe the first thing I'm going to go ahead and start with is this is the Colorado Crime Trends 2025 mid-year report. See, I'm going to go ahead and give you the data from an actual report.
I will be right back.
Back up what it is I am going to say. As opposed to what we end up with most of the time is people just spouting off numbers and dates and places. Colorado has never been at the top of the list of most dangerous states in the country. Crime has not been going up in the state of Colorado for the last 15 years. Gun crime has not been going up in the state of Colorado for the last 15 years. If it was, the individuals who come and try to tell us that kind of information would actually have a report that they could read. But they don't. They, again, as we have said before, are in the business of selling fear. And misinformation fuels the fear of our people in the state of Colorado. The actual violent crime statistics have decreased by 13.3%, representing over 2,000 fewer violent crimes when compared to 2024 during the same time period. It's influenced by robberies and aggravated assaults. The homicide rate in the state of Colorado has decreased by 29.5%. That's 42 fewer deaths. Fewer people are dying in Colorado because of the things that we have been doing collectively. Not just one bill, not just one legislator, everybody who's been involved. And what is so disappointing, having to listen to this for hours on end, year after year, is there is a group out there who does not want to be a part of a solution. Everything is some kind of an impediment to their lives. I already the guy told me it was annoying to have to do something. We heard it's onerous. What a burden to us. It's a hassle that I have to go through to do this. The crime rates are going down in the state of Colorado. And they want to talk about criminals. The criminals aren't killing our kids. Mothers and fathers are killing their kids. Tonight, 8 children will die in the United States. 4 of them will die in their own homes by their parents. It's got nothing to do with criminals. 2/3 of all gun deaths in the United States are suicides. Are any of those individuals criminals? No. You know
I gotta
what
say
they are?
this.
They're
Tom Sullivan's a
individuals
damn
with
idiot.
firearms. That's what's killing them.
If he says criminals aren't
Easy
killing kids,
access to firearms.
then what are they then?
They want to talk about ghost
Yeah,
guns
really, what
not
are they?
showing up at crime scenes. That's right, because the crime scenes are going down.
What do you
How
think?
many
Big Boss?
ghost guns are we finding at the scene of a suicide that go on in our state? Not only the mass shootings, the common shootings, domestic violence, the accidental shootings. That's not happening in homes that don't own firearms. And of that 37% that do own firearms, over 15% of those children know what a gun is, know where to get the ammunition, and can fire it in less than 45 minutes. But there's a group out there that want to talk about that. Instead, they want to come up with reasons and telling me what a hassle this is.
Yeah, Tom Sullivan is a damn
We're
idiot.
talking about the enforcement of this while they're already explaining that we're going to figure out a way. I'm going to be building my own firearms, and I'm going to come up with other things other than the barrels so I can come after you. Or I'm just going to drive an hour and I'll get it and it won't matter. You know, if you go outside the law, you no longer are law abiding. That's in the definition. Unless we listen to everybody who came and spoke to us and told us how law abiding they were. This is exactly what I thought this was going to be. This continues to disappoint me because when I asked at the very beginning, I am hopeful. Because if you don't have hope, all you got is nightmares. That this is not inevitable. We do not have to live in a society like this. We do
Well,
not
stop making
have
it be one.
children taking their own lives. We do not have to see husbands killing their children and their wives.
And what does that have to do with the barrels?
But that's what happens. And my hope was that we would find a way to actually have a conversation. Yeah, you know what? You might have to drive 20 minutes or a half hour or an hour to get your barrel. And to tell me that the cost is going to be prohibitive, the guy sat there and told us he's going to get 10 barrels at $30 to $100 a piece, and how that was going to impact the disadvantaged people of our community. The disadvantaged people of our community are trying to eat tonight. They're not looking for a place to buy 10 barrels for their sports shooting that they do on weekends. They're trying to eat and keep the heat on.
I gotta go grab my food. And
That's not a conversation that we can have with these 37% who own their guns in the state of Colorado and feel as though it is inevitable that everything happens here is just going to happen and we all should just let it go. I'm not letting it go. Okay? I'll keep fighting this because I care about those kids who are taking their own lives. And now they're finding new ways to do it. They're finding a 3D printer. And they're printing it out because there's problems. I really, really hope at some point that we would have an honest conversation about gun violence here in the state of Colorado and how we all could work together on it. But since they're reluctant to have that conversation, what ends up happening is the majority of people who are talking about it become bigger. The majority down here at the General Assembly has gotten bigger and bigger each year since I got down here in 2019. Not all my fault. It's not all because of things I did, but you know what? The people of the state of Colorado have decided we need to do something about this gun violence and what's happening. And it looks to me like it's those people who are going to do it, and they keep electing us. They keep bringing us in here. That's what they're going to do. And I ask today for a yes vote on 26043.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Do members of the committee have any closing remarks? Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill is too broad. This bill is unenforceable. We heard that many times. This bill is an unfunded mandate to our counties and also our small business owners. I'm going to vote no on this bill because that is the right thing to do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Zamora Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's been said that the crime rates have been dropping in Colorado. I just want to put some things into perspective as far as there has been underreporting is widespread. There's many residents that no longer report crimes, especially in minor thefts and assaults, because police may not respond or prosecution is non-existent because of the lenient policies like reduced bail, nonviolent offenses, diversions, and lower penalties. This artificially lowers official stats without actual crime reduction. There's been reclassification and decriminalization that skew numbers. There's been, where the majority has done reforms, easing drug possession penalties, higher felony thresholds for theft, record sealing, and harm reduction, which means some acts are no longer counted as serious crimes or felonies, making declines appear larger than reality. Shoplifting and certain property crimes may still be rising, but they get masked. We also have data is incomplete and manipulated. Some official reports in the DCJ data showing that 13.3% violent and 17.5% property drops rely on reported incidents. There's national gaps such as the FBI that undercounts, and local non-response means true crime levels are likely higher. So it doesn't really reflect the true experience. I will also say, with all that, in comparing Colorado to the nation in overall violent crime, we know that Colorado is 33% higher than the US average on violent crime. In rape, Colorado's rape was about 58 per 100,000, and comparatively, the US was 37.5 per 100,000. So Colorado's rape sits above the US average and is higher than most states. Human trafficking, based on the FBI data in 2024, Colorado had the 13th highest number of trafficking offenses. In auto theft, we also see that FBI and state crime data, Colorado's auto theft ranks around the fourth highest among the states. And I can go on about property crime and other crimes where Colorado, despite what we're hearing, that there's been a reduction in crime, it still ranks higher than the nation's levels. We've been seeing gun bills in reducing and restricting citizens' rights to bear arms. It's been going on for a long time. We still rank high. This isn't about safety. It's about control. There is going to be cost to this, but even if there wasn't, this is restricting our rights. This is violating the Constitution. As my colleague stated, this is broad. This is incredibly broad. And people will find a way. You put restrictions on them and restrict their ability to defend themselves, they will find a way to protect themselves. And criminals, it doesn't matter what regulations you put on them, they will find a way to harm us. And we must be able to protect ourselves. I am a firm no on this. I am open to discussion on how we can make our citizens safer, but this is not the way. Thank you.
Some good
Further
common sense right there.
Statements? I will just say, I appreciate the vice chair's continued work on this issue, and his patience with having to do this over so many years and facing conversation after conversation. For me, this is a easy yes for all of those lives lost that we have heard about, and in the hope that we don't have to keep facing the same devastated families. With that, is there a motion, Mr. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 26043 to the committee on a whole with a favorable approval.
Mr. Sayed, please call the roll.
Sanders. Lindstedt.
Yes.
Peltonar.
No.
Zamora Wilson.
No.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes, that motion is approved by a vote of 3-2.
What the?
And with no further business, the committee is adjourned.
Yes. What the? Oh my God. Okay. People, we're going to be covering every inch of this from the House back to the Senate, all the way down to either approval or a denial. Okay. This is ridiculous.
Hopefully there will be an appeal and a lawsuit in it.
Yeah, me too. What do you guys think about my testimony?
It was very good.
I'm surprised they even asked me a question too.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, guys. This is the end of the gun news. Bringing you Senate Bill 26-043 of Colorado. So please stay tuned if you guys are from Colorado, or even if you're anywhere else in the country, want to know what kind of screwed up stuff Colorado's doing to their constituents. So
we will continue to cover this as news comes on, and hopefully justice will happen. But right now we have lost.
yeah. Second Amendment has been tainted today. Big time. All right. Aloha. We'll see you guys on the next round of this fuckery.